They say the scent of sudden wealth is like expensive leather and new car smell. They are wrong. The true scent of $140 million is burnt sugar and ashes. I know this because I am currently standing on the balcony of a penthouse I paid cash for, burning the only photograph of my ex-husband that I didn't shred. His smiling face curls into black ash and floats away over the city skyline. My name is Sarah. And if you are listening to this, you are probably the kind of person who thinks they know their partner. You think you know the person sharing your bed, breathing the same air. You don't. I lived with a monster for 10 years, and I only saw his true face for the last 30 days. This isn't a story about a lottery ticket. This is a story about an execution, a slow, deliberate, financial execution. 10 years. That's how long Michael and I were drowning in mediocrity. We were the couple counting pennies at the grocery store, driving cars held together by duct tape and hope. Michael was a foreman at a construction site, perpetually dusty and perpetually angry at the world. I was a librarian, living in quiet desperation. His only escape was the Friday ritual, a 6-pack of cheap beer and a Powerball ticket. He used to joke, "When I hit the big one, Sarah, I'm buying you an island." It was a sweet lie we told ourselves to survive the grinding poverty. Then 6 weeks ago, the atmosphere in our small, cramped house shifted. It wasn't a gradual change, it was seismic. Michael didn't just come home angry, he came home vibrating. There was a manic energy beneath his skin, a reptilian glint in his eyes that I had never seen before. He stopped sleeping. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and find him sitting in the dark kitchen, just staring at the wall, grinning like a lunatic. He became paranoid. He installed 3 new deadbolts on our front door. He bought a small fireproof safe and hid it in the back of his closet, claiming he needed it for sensitive work documents. A construction foreman needing a biometric safe for work documents? It smelled wrong. It smelled like secrets. Then came the discard phase. He didn't just want a divorce. He needed to amputate me from his life immediately. He sat me down, his leg bouncing nervously, and delivered a speech that sounded rehearsed in front of a mirror. "Sarah, I'm suffocating. We've grown apart. I need to find myself alone. I'm leaving." The old Sarah would have cried. The old Sarah would have begged. But the new Sarah, the one watching this man sweat through his shirt while dumping his wife of a decade, noticed something else. He wasn't sad. He was terrified. He was terrified I would say no. He was terrified I would drag it out. He offered me everything, the underwater mortgage, the dying car, our meager savings account. "Just sign the papers, Sarah. Let's make it a clean break. Today, I don't want anything." A man who argues over a 50-cent coupon at the supermarket suddenly doesn't want anything? That was the moment my sadness died and my suspicion woke up. He moved into a cheap motel, pressuring me daily via text to sign the expedited divorce filing. I told him I needed time to grieve. I told him I was seeing a therapist. It was all theater. I wasn't grieving. I was hunting. I knew the secret was in the house. I tore our life apart. I checked vents. I checked under floorboards. Nothing. Then I remembered the safe in his closet, the biometric one. He thought he was clever. But Michael was a creature of habit. When he drank too much whiskey, he slept like the dead. 2 nights before the divorce signing, I slipped 3 crushed melatonin pills into his evening scotch when he came by to pick up some clothes. By midnight, he was comatose on the guest bed. I used his thumb to open the safe. It wasn't full of documents. It contained 2 things. The first was a burner phone. The second was a small, velvet pouch. Inside the pouch was a Powerball ticket, dated 3 weeks prior. I didn't need to check the numbers. I knew. The jackpot was $140 million. But the phone was worse. I unlocked it. His passcode was his own birthday, the narcissist, and found his Notes app. It was a detailed manifesto of his post-Sarah life. He had lists of luxury condos in Miami, brochures for yachts, and most disgustingly, a list of women Instagram models he planned to DM the moment the money hit his account. He hadn't just fallen out of love, he had calculated my value against his new fortune and decided I was a liability to be discarded. He was going to let me rot in poverty while he lived like a king on wealth acquired during our marriage. In the state of California, that ticket was 50% mine. But Michael was greedy. He wanted it all. I sat on the floor of that closet for 3 hours in the dark. The rage that filled me was so cold, it felt like hypothermia. I put everything back exactly as I found it. I woke him up the next morning with coffee and a tear-stained face. I told him I was ready to sign. The performance of my life began in my lawyer's office. My lawyer, Rebecca, was the only person who knew the truth. We had crafted a bear trap, and Michael was about to walk right into it. At the signing, I played the broken woman perfectly. I wore no makeup. I let my hands tremble. Michael sat across from me, vibrating with impatience, already mentally spending his millions. Rebecca pushed the final settlement agreement across the table. "Michael," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern, "because this divorce is happening so fast, and because you are so generously giving Sarah everything, we need to include standard language to protect both of you from future claims." Michael barely glanced at it. "Whatever, let's just get this done." The clause was buried on page 14, section 9, paragraph C. It was standard legal boilerplate, usually ignored. It read, "Both parties assert under penalty of perjury that they have fully disclosed all assets, both liquid and illiquid, acquired during the marriage. If it is later determined that either party has intentionally concealed a substantial asset to avoid equitable distribution, the court reserves the right to award 100% of said concealed asset to the defrauded party as a punitive measure." Michael didn't read it. He was too busy looking at his watch. He signed his name with a flourish. I signed mine, letting a single perfect tear fall onto the paper. "It's done," he said, standing up too quickly. "You'll be okay, Sarah. You're resilient." He practically ran out of the office. He thought he was running toward freedom. He was running toward an abyss. 4 days later, the California Lottery Commission announced a winner. Michael couldn't help himself. His ego demanded the spotlight. He held that giant, oversized check on the 6 o'clock news, grinning like a Cheshire cat. When the reporter asked him what he would do with the money, he said, "I'm a self-made man. I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my labor alone." Self-made. That was the trigger word. Rebecca filed the emergency motion the next morning. The charge, felony fraud upon the court, perjury, and malicious concealment of marital assets. The courtroom was packed. Michael walked in wearing a $5,000 Italian suit he'd bought on credit, looking confused. When he saw me, he sneered. "What do you want now, Sarah? More alimony? It's over. The money is mine. Post-divorce." He didn't understand. He truly believed his own lies. The judge was a stern woman with zero tolerance for theatrics. Rebecca laid it out surgically. Exhibit A. The date on the lottery ticket, proving it was bought during the marriage. Exhibit B. The security footage from the convenience store. Exhibit C. The divorce decree, highlighting his signature under the perjury clause, but the kill shot was Exhibit D. Rebecca played a video file. It was from the burner phone I had accessed. Michael had been foolish enough to record a video diary entry the night he won. His face filled the courthouse monitors, drunk and gloating. "I did it. I'm rich. 140 mil. And the best part? Sarah doesn't know. I'm gonna dump that dead weight, sign the papers, and then cash this baby in. She'll be stuck in that dumpy house and I'll be on a yacht in Biscayne Bay. Sorry, honey, winners take all." The silence in the courtroom was absolute. Michael turned the color of chalk. His high-priced lawyer put his head in his hands. The judge stared at Michael over her reading glasses for a full minute before speaking. Her voice was ice. "Mr. Sterling, in my 20 years on the bench, I have rarely seen such a naked, grotesque display of greed and malice. You didn't just want a divorce. You wanted to defraud the person who supported you for a decade. You attempted to weaponize this court to commit grand larceny." Michael stood up, stammering, "Your Honor, please. It was a mistake. I was confused. 50-50 is fair. I'll give her half." The judge slammed her gavel down so hard it echoed like a gunshot. You forfeited fair when you signed that perjury statement, sir. The law is clear on intentional concealment. The penalty is absolute." She looked him dead in the eye and delivered the verdict that ended his life. "I hereby award 100% of the lottery winnings, totaling $140 million, to the plaintiff, Sarah Sterling. You, sir, are left with nothing but your legal fees and a possible indictment for perjury. Get out of my sight." Michael collapsed into his chair. He made a sound like a dying animal. He looked at me, his eyes pleading for mercy. I leaned in close as I walked past him. "You were right, Michael," I whispered. "You said you wanted nothing. Now you have it. Enjoy your freedom." He's back working construction now in another state, living in a rented room, wages garnished for his legal debts. He spends his weekends drinking cheap beer and telling anyone who will listen about how his evil ex-wife stole his fortune. He still buys lottery tickets. He still thinks he's just unlucky. He doesn't understand. The jackpot wasn't the ticket. The jackpot was the test, and he failed it spectacularly. I didn't just win the money. I won the war he didn't even know we were fighting.